Hi, guys. Welcome back.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
What's up?
We're back with Yvette. We miss you so much, Yvette. It's so good to be here with you.
I miss you too, guys. I'm so happy.
I know. The band is back.
It really is. It just feels so good. It's like home.
Oh.
You know, you're like with the people that you feel like you belong with, and it just feels like right, you know.
Yeah. Which is what we're talking about today.
Yeah. That's what we were going to be talking about, was the topic of belonging and feeling like a sense of community, a sense of like when you're with other people who see you and get you and understand you, then it does something for our identity. It gives us some type of a sense of identity and a feeling of like, yes, I can do this. It's worth it. And I don't know. I feel like having you on today is like the perfect opportunity to talk about that, because I think that we have such a history of that family feel that you get when you're with people who really just don't judge you and don't compete with you and aren't comparing to you and just want what's best for you. I think that's the sense of belonging, when somebody that you're with wants what's best for you without wanting to take from you.
Yeah, wow. I think I don't know, I feel like there's like two sides to it. As you were talking, I was thinking about like moments where I feel like I completely belong, like the four of us together, you know. And then there are times where I feel like I don't belong ever. And I think when we're, you know, and I was praying about this topic, I thought about how I think of other people and like belonging, right? Like you might have this sense of like, I don't belong with like the people I'm with, or I'm not accepted, or I'm not like welcomed, or whatever the case may be. And it's like, sometimes I feel like that's your own thought. Like I think like I could be looking at somebody else in a group and think like, oh, they're welcomed, they belong way more than I do, you know, but actually they might be feeling like the same thing. So it's like this inside feeling of what we get, I think, when we're around like other people.
100%. It's comparison on both ends. It's like comparison of not being welcomed and comparison of not welcoming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sometimes miss, like what you said, Janine. I sometimes miss the feeling that I had when I was with you guys recording or in the prayer group, because I've never felt like that again. You know, I was feeling safe and right, and that I didn't have to change who I was to belong there. I was just wanted because of who I was, with all my good parts and all my bad parts, and that gave me a lot of freedom, the same freedom that Jesus in some like gives me all the time, you know, because I belong to him. And that belonging, I found that kind of belonging with you guys, for example, and it feels good, but it's so difficult to find that, like I feel in this life and in this society, you know. It's like I feel like the normal situation is like the comparison or like comparing, and the fight of owning your own place, and that need of being loved and accepted, you know. And I feel like you also can feel like you don't belong to a place, and that's okay too, and that means that you maybe need to move, you know, to another place, to another kind of people. I needed to move from Spain when I was living here, for example, and I had that need because I didn't belong here anymore, not because the people were not good, because the people didn't love me, but because I needed to grow, you know. And so sometimes belonging is like, I don't know how to say it, but you belong to Jesus, and then in some periods of your time you like belong to different places. But the real love, the one that doesn't judge, the one that just loves you because who you are, is that one that you don't have to like work for it. For example, sometimes I cannot record, you know, and I'm not there, but I don't feel like I'm missing you, or I don't feel like I'm being judged, or I don't feel like I'm, you know what I mean? I still belong there because my heart is there with you, your heart is there with me. And it's that kind of like love that Jesus has shown me through you guys. And but sometimes you don't find it, so I encourage everyone to like move if you don't feel that is right where you are.
I want to say it's almost like going based off of that. It's like humans are almost like a puzzle. I feel like we're all little puzzle pieces, and groups are the actual puzzle itself once it comes together. And it's almost like sometimes, I don't know, as I was a kid, I want to say, I sometimes would take puzzle pieces and I would take it and I'd be like, why won't this one fit here? And I would try to force it in. You can't exactly do that though without cutting things off. And I want to say that, yes, that's sometimes a good thing and sometimes a bad thing though. If it doesn't fit, don't, put it in. But also sometimes I feel like as we grow in love, as we grow in truth, as we change throughout life, we do have pieces of ourselves sometimes shaped and reshaped and cut and molded so that we could actually, fit here in this situation, be able to do this in that situation. And it's not all, you never stay stagnant. That's the thing. And that's what I feel like as humans we do. It's almost like there's the good cutting and then there's the bad cutting. It's the almost poisoning yourself versus strengthening yourself.
Wow, you guys gave me so much to think about. This is different than I thought it was going to be, but I'm like loving all of these thoughts on it. I feel like the idea of safety, of feeling like you can be yourself in your perfections, in your imperfections, in your good and your bad, and that to me, Yvette, that you said that to us is like such a compliment. Like, you don't have any idea. Like, the fact that you feel that way about us is such a, like, I just wanted to say thank you. Like, that is such a compliment. And we feel the same exact way with you. And, we're all so different in the way that we are. But I think that's what community and belonging really ends up being. And I love the fact that you're over there and not here, but we can still have that. Like, that's the power of love. That's the power of God. That's the power of unity. Like, we're not puzzle pieces that aren't connected. That connection stays if we stay rooted, I think, in Him, in His love, because that's what gives you the ability to love each other, I think, freely.
Yeah, there were a lot of words that stood out to me.
Mm-hmm.
Safety was like the number one.
Mm-hmm.
Safety,
Yeah.
freedom,
Mm-hmm.
freedom, acceptance. Like when you said you were free to be yourself with us, and then like not with us and over there in Spain, But something you said, James, with the puzzle piece, it's like, I was thinking of, like a middle puzzle piece where it fits, like it has a top, it has a bottom, a left and a right. And like, we all have different communities that we belong to, right? Like you have your friends, you have your boxing gym, you have your school people, you have your family, maybe adults having like the prayer group. And then everyone has like a family that, a mom, dad, brother, sister. And it's like, you have these like different communities and you really do like belong with many of them, but they're not like, it's not the same. And I think the way we are and when we can be our truest selves and when those relationships are the strongest is when we are freely able to be who we are, like to the core. But I think the beauty of having those like different communities and fitting with different people and groups is like such a beautiful thing, but it's really hard to come by. It's really hard to come by. And I am thinking about groups that I like don't belong to anymore, and maybe that's because they weren't rooted in faith or love or something deep enough to sustain hardship or disagreements or fights or different seasons of life.
Yeah. And what you just said, like they are not rooted in faith or, as I can see, I mean, I'm not judging them and I love them and I really have good friends here in Spain, but I can feel the difference as they are not rooted in what I am rooted. Not because it's better or worse, it's just because the ability that I've been thoughts. It's good. Thoughts
Yeah.
about loving, about acceptance, about not judgment, and all that. And what I have lived there with you guys in the podcast or in the prayer group, that feeling, I don't think that they have found it because they haven't found Jesus in the first place. But it's not a judgment. It's just like I can see the difference because I was there and now I'm not there anymore. And sometimes I kind of fall in those mistakes, I will say again, about comparing, about judgment and all that. I still fall because I'm human. But what I'm pretty like confident to say is that I haven't felt again the same as I did in USA. And what I wanted to say before is like sometimes it's okay to not feel like you haven't found your place yet. Because what you said, Marisa, like we are puzzles, we are pieces of a puzzle, but that doesn't mean that we stay the same forever. Even less when we are walking with Jesus, the growth and the changes are like something that stay with you forever. And that's a good thing. So I think that sometimes your piece cannot stay in the same puzzle forever, the same people, the same groups. And it's okay to not have that attachment because you trust that you will fall again in the puzzle that has to be for you for that period of time. And some puzzles are forever, like for me, you guys. But it's okay. For example, here in Spain, I haven't found my place yet, or my community or my group of people. But accepting that, it's also like trusting for me, God and Jesus, like I have found good people. I have found places where I'm okay and all that. But it's like, it's okay to sometimes and just like, maybe I don't fit here with this kind of people anymore, or maybe here, or maybe I don't feel right here. And sometimes we are so much afraid of not belonging to a place, yes or yes, because then we feel alone while we are never alone, that sometimes we just try to force our piece of the puzzle in one place instead of just let it be, let it fly and let it fall in another kind of puzzle that maybe fits better in who you are now.
I almost want to say with some I'm going to use a phone analogy for this. So with Samsungs and Apples, there used to be like a difference where you couldn't plug a certain charger into this one, or you couldn't plug a certain charger into that one. And it's almost like I feel like as we grow, it's almost like it changed. Apple changed. It went from being just one charger to being multiple. And I feel like if we could get ourselves to connect with multiple people, that's how we grow in community. But it takes trust to be able to do that. It takes trust in other people and that they'll be kind to you and respectful to you. But it also takes trust in yourself that you won't feel let down if they reject you.
Yeah, sure.
I'm thinking of trust in the timing, patience in it,
Patience.
I think that, like, I just think listening to you, I think like we miss you. It's been almost a year. And I think there's this sense of like, yeah, like it's been a long time since we've recorded with you. It's been a long time since we've seen you in person. And yeah, that's a real like human emotion of missing the people that you love. And I think it reminds me of when you said like, we can't see the whole puzzle. And I do think that like, it's never going to look just like it looks like here. But I think that the trust in God's providence and the patience in that, it could take years and you might find them. And I just think like we can learn from that. We can say like, yeah, I may feel like I don't belong to like the group that I had when I was in the United States, but I believe and I'm going to pray and ask that a group like that comes to me in Spain, because it takes the courage to seek it out and to ask for it and to just be like, okay, I'm just going to keep going. Maybe I feel like I don't belong now or whatever, but one day I might, and I believe I will.
Yeah. And also not having that need, because I was so afraid of not belonging to a place while I was coming back at home to be alone, that loneliness. And I have my small prayer group with all people that loves me and encourage me and listen to me. So I have he has provided to me like really good people around me. Maybe it's different, but it's good too, and it feels right too. Maybe maybe it's still not my place where I feel like, okay, it's here right now. Maybe I'm just moving. I don't know. But what I mean is like, once I stop having that need of belonging to people, to group of people, to stop feeling alone, once I just focus on him and on trusting his timing, then I start to belonging what I felt right, not what I needed to be to just stop being afraid or stop being feeling lonely. It's just like I trusted and I focused on him, and then my peace just felt around good people that was feeling right, because not of a need, not because of an attachment, just because of he wanted me there, and I trusted that. You know what I mean? And then I want to take the word patience that you said, because I also think that belonging requires patience of yourself and from the others. Like, for belonging is not just like, okay, I'm gonna do whatever I want and I'm gonna be accepted and I'm gonna be not judged. It's not. No, it requires work, and it requires love, and it requires that you try to do your best, you try to also forgive, you try to do effort, you try to, you know what I mean? It's not like, Jesus wants me here, let's do what I can do whatever what I want because they will forgive me because they don't judge. No, it's like, it also takes patience of accepting others' mistakes, being great, like having grace on others too, then they will receive you with the same grace and the same love and the same acceptance. It's like, we are not perfect. We are gonna do mistakes. My best friend just got annoyed with me last week, and that doesn't mean that we don't belong to each other anymore. It's just that we can do it better because we care. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's not like, patience for me is a good word, because I really think that patience is also loving someone, being patient with someone, letting he be better, or giving you the time of doing it better, giving second chances and 3 and 4. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean you have to be perfect, because if not, you are not going to be accepted. Or it doesn't mean that people have to be perfect, because then they are going to be worthy of belonging to the same group as you. You know what I mean? Don't expect the others to be perfect.
And I think it's also I feel like there's also that level of patience with yourself too. Like, okay, I'm not feeling it right now. I'm not feeling the love. I'm not feeling the acceptance. I'm not feeling the kindness. I'm actually feeling the comparison. I'm actually feeling like, oh, I don't really like you very much right now because you're treating me poorly, and you shouldn't be treating me that way because it's not nice. And those are all real emotions too, that I think when you look at your own self, and it's like instead of hiding from the truth of how you're feeling in the moment, just being free to say, you know what, this is how I feel. I think the release of those emotions allows the patience and the trust to then, and peace really, because I think that brings like peace to refill you, so that you can then, when I'm showing kindness to me, when I'm not hating on myself, I think sometimes we then project that gentleness with ourselves to the other people. I think that's why you're able to be loving, because it just sounds very loving to me. To be loving with those people is because you're learning how to be loving and gentle with yourself, with the full knowledge that you're not perfect. And you are going to be angry, and you are going to be disappointed. I think disappointment in people that you have expectations of is where we get hurt the most. You have these expectations that the people that you're closest to are going to, we do have, I know I do. I have an expectation that they're going to be perfect. And then it's the reminder to myself of, no, they're not perfect. I never was perfect. And we can come to some type of a reconciliation together, with the knowledge of like, forgiveness and honesty. Like, we don't become doormats. We don't allow people to just treat us poorly, but, we use our voice, we speak our truth, and then we like, okay, this is where I am, this is where you are. Let's just learn to accept each other and then move past it. That I think is healthy, even just from a psychological perspective, not just spiritual.
I feel like almost, in every relationship, there needs to be communication. So it's like when you of course in life, there's going to be rough times where you argue and stuff like that. I mean, speaking from a sibling perspective, trust me, I've fought with my siblings before. But it's an understanding that even though we fight sometimes, we still love each other anyways. And I feel like it's almost like a one-sided fight with God and our relationship. It's like, oh, I hate you. And he's just like, well, I love you anyways. And it's almost like you have to be able to speak your truth. You got to be able, as you said, you got to speak your truth. You got to be able to put it out on the table, because if you don't put it out on the table, no one else is going to see the meal.
Oh my God. Another analogy.
That's so true.
I know your analogies and metaphors are the best. I could
It's unbelievable.
I could see them. It's like I see it. I'm thinking of what you expect your group in which you belong to. Like, I'm thinking of, it doesn't look anything like I ever thought it would. You know, it like our prayer group, I'm just gonna say, you know, I never, like, looking around in that circle, I never expected someone from Spain to join us on a random Friday night. You know, I think that's the beauty of like true belonging, is that it doesn't look anything like you expect it to look. And our mission, our purpose is to let everybody know that, like, you are welcome and you do belong. I mean, we have a picture in the studio of like Jesus going to find the lost sheep. And if we think back all the way to that first episode, that's what we're searching for. And I think the beauty in belonging to a group like that is then you mirror that with the rest of the world. You don't keep it for the three of us where it started to the four of us where it grew into, like, it's just gonna keep growing. And it's just those encounters and letting people know that they do belong.
Yeah.
You know, even when it doesn't look like it should or what you expect it to look like. You know, from ages 80 to what? 8, like has been the youngest that has showed up. And I'm just like specifically talking about the prayer group. And I just think something that has been, you know, my own personal experience of thinking about the people who do listen. It's surprising sometimes. I didn't expect this person to listen, or I didn't expect this person to have a deep rooted faith or love for Jesus, because we never talked about it, you know? And it's like, wait, you have that part of your life, you have that faith life, like, let's share it. Never expected it to be you. And maybe I've known you my whole life, you know? And I think that's just such a beautiful thing about belonging when you're talking about it in terms of faith.
Yeah. And when I said before about the here in Spain, for example, like, I can feel the difference when people is not rooted in faith or in Jesus. And that doesn't mean that we are better or they are worse or whatever. It's just like, for me, Jesus makes you better. You know, build some values inside of you of how loving the other and how loving yourself. And it's like, it changes you. So it changes the way you treat the other. You are more gentle. Or it's not like you are, it's like you know how to be more gentle. Patience is built. Confident in yourself is built, so then you are more honest with other people. I mean, at least those were the changes inside of me after knowing Jesus. And I do feel that our mission also is working on that, to show the people the light of Jesus, you know, and showing that kind of love. So we help others also to like walk towards this light and towards this kind of love that just Jesus can show you. You know what I mean? And then, for example, the disciples, it reminds me to the disciples, because I can say, or I imagine them not feeling that they belonged to the group at the beginning, you know, and the way they treated each other, the way they were judging each other from their past, and the way they were talking at the backs, you know, and the way that they used to argue between each other. And Jesus never said that they couldn't. Jesus just showed them a way to do it better. to do it more gentle, to do it more patient, more lovely. And that's what I mean. Before Jesus, people, they were not rooted in that kind of love, in that kind of patience and grace, so they couldn't do it better. They didn't know how to, and Jesus showed them how to. He didn't show them how to just stay in silence to be perfect and to belong to the group. No, they show them how to treat better each other, and thanks to that, I think they continues discussing and they continues arguing. I'm sure, but in a different way.
They were messy.
Exactly. That's what I mean when I feel like when people is not rooted in that kind of grace that Jesus can show you or not, and I can see it a lot in the disciples, in the how they treat each other before Jesus and how they treat each other after Jesus. And then they will have other directions. What we said, they will find other puzzles to where they need to go, and they will fit there, and they will also belong there. And they had their own families, but they belonged forever to the group with Jesus, like us.
Yes, I love that. And I think so I think of it as like, I think Christianity always had this, even I think of my own self and how I viewed it for such a long time. I was like, it's this judgmental, like, group of people who aren't welcoming, who don't want you involved, and who whatever. And I remember when I was actually like learning to become one, and just learning about it more, it takes like time and prayer and like I feel like time with him, but then eventually like learning like it's actually the opposite. Like it's so the opposite of that. It's like it really is that like going for the 99. It really is like, not being afraid of people who maybe look different than you, who sound different than you, who act different than you, who make different choices than you. Like it's one of the things that I think is like, yeah, there are the commandments and all of that, and I don't have any problems with any of them, but I think sometimes when you can just approach a person where they are, with or without religion, with that like sense of like, no, like I'm going to try and see you for who you are as a person without any type of a judgment. I think sometimes because there's a preconception, I don't believe we are what they say we are because, we're just not. But I think what your vision of what Christianity is looks so much like what the apostles and the disciples looked like, because that's what they were. He didn't pick from the perfect. He didn't go and say, oh my gosh, you're like so perfect the way that you are. No, he went for the people who were messy, who knew that they needed a savior. I think that's the thing too. Like we all need a savior. We can't do it alone. We try. Believe me, I try very hard. I want to control everything.
I find that as I've grown in the church and as I've, felt more belong to them, to the churches, and even on where we live, just the churches that we live and go to, it's almost like I felt the family there. And it honestly, what it feels like, it's like we're called out to step onto the boat where the water is, and we're called to step in, and it's almost like that's where everyone from the churches are. But we got to understand that the boats are going to rock, but they will never collapse. Mm-hmm. So it's not a promise that we're just going to smoothly sail, but it's also a promise that he won't let us fall and drown.
Trust.
Yeah, I think it takes a lot of courage and a lot of vulnerability. When you were talking about the disciples and the apostles, I was thinking mainly of, and I'm just specifically talking about Peter and Matthew from The Chosen, or Simon. I think he's still Simon at that point. It took them a really long time to like each other because they were different. They didn't, Matthew was hated by Simon's people, and it took a really long time for that forgiveness to happen and that community to actually form.
It took a long time for them to be able to come together and to see each other for who they actually were. They were stuck in the preconceived notions of like Peter was this. He wasn't paying like how he was supposed to. He was cheating. And Matthew was a tax collector. He went against his own people. And what people don't know, what nobody ever knows, is you don't ever know what somebody else is going through. So Matthews had a backstory. He didn't just become a tax collector because he thought it would be a good idea. And Peter had a backstory. So that's what you were trying to say. Nobody knows anybody else's situation, but they were so willing to stand in judgment because they knew nothing else. It's what they were stuck in. And it's what we get stuck in too. But every person does have a story. And I'm not making excuses. It's just the way of reality. And then when you see Matthew's backstory in The Chosen, when you see his backstory, you have so much compassion for him. And when you see Peter's backstory, you have compassion for him. But we don't always let each other see those parts of us, but they're there.
I believe it's almost like a natural human instinct to see someone as a first impression and then, that's who they are. That's their identity. They're that evil person. They're that dang tax collector. We don't like him. And it's like you really never know someone's true intentions, what they feel, how they are. You never really know anyone's true identity until you get them alone and you get a deep conversation. It's only when you can deeply connect, deeply communicate, that you could finally figure out where you guys stand and who you guys actually are. You never know someone's true identity just from a first impression, because most of the times that's either a mask, one emotion, one shard of a crystal, one shine of a light. You never truly know. It's just one color of a rainbow.
Yeah, and I think that in order to get there, the vulnerability has to be there. Like there's no way about it, and you don't just open up instantly and become super vulnerable with other people. You know, there is that. Does this person welcome me? Is this person willing to accept me or learn about me or whatever? It's like, you have to feel that. And I just think the bottom line, the message of like this whole podcast is like, if you have this misconception that you're not welcome or you don't belong in Christianity or whatever, like that's not true, you know? And like, I hope that this episode or our podcast, or if you're part of the prayer group, like I hope that we dispel that lie that you might believe.
Yeah, the lie is that you don't belong, where the truth is that everybody belongs. Everybody has a place. Everybody's given a name. Everybody's given a purpose. And everybody is welcomed into the family. That's who we're supposed to be. That's what we're made to be. It's like a welcome home. Everybody should be welcome.
Amen.
All right.
Amen.
Tiny miracles?
Yeah. I'll go. I'm going to just say a tiny miracle for one of our listeners who listens every single week. She had a medical situation where her doctors told her to get to the emergency room like right away. Something has to be done, and further testing went on, and they thought like all these like horrible things were happening, and it actually, something was wrong, and thank God that she was there. But they it was like best case scenario, and she texted me yesterday and she said, this is my big tiny miracle. So I couldn't help but share that.
My tiny miracle is another person also. My husband had a really important doctor appointment that we had to go to this week, and when we first walked in, they were like, oh, your appointment was canceled. And my husband was like, no, it wasn't. And they were like, yes, it was. We called you yesterday. And he was like, no, it wasn't. They called me yesterday to confirm. And she was like, wait, what's your name? And he said his name, and they were like, oh, sorry, wrong person. And they were like, you do have an appointment. But then we couldn't find the script. And the lady turned. She had like this 180. She went from being really abrasive to like really kind, and then going out of her way to get in contact with the doctor's office, who was open only that day at that time. Every other day of the week, they open an hour later. She's like, it's your lucky day. And I was like, tiny miracle. So my tiny miracle is that we got into the doctor appointment.
I love it. Yvette?
I think my tiny miracle just happened after this episode because I was well, guys, but I was just feeling this anger towards someone that is around me. And after this episode about talking about having grace and about thinking about how the other can feel, or trying to have that grace for the others and that patience and that understanding instead of just judging and acting, the first answer that I will have or that Yvette from past years will have. After talking about all that, I just realized that maybe I can even understand that person, how she feels about me or how she can feel, and maybe her fears are the same as mine,
Wow.
That's
and that's
beautiful.
something that I will not be able to do without Jesus and without this episode, guys.
That's beautiful.
My tiny miracle is probably actually I was getting driven by my cousin, and it seemed like we were going to be completely late. There was no chance we were ever going to get there on time, and I feel like I've probably shared a similar one to this before. But we managed to get there on time. And I also want to thank him for actually dropping me off in front of the building. I was like, just park, I'm going to be late anyways. But he was like, no, you could probably still make it.
I love it.
And I was like, I don't know. It's like past the time that I usually can. And I got in, and somehow by a miracle, I actually got there like earlier than the bell.
I love that.
Tiny big miracle.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Gotta scoot, little newts.